So Ray, are you ready for the next new Mario Let's Play?
Well, kind of thinking about it though, Mighty, is about the fact that despite how Maxie is still on the process of going through Super Mario Party Jamboree at this point, well, kind of thinking about it though is about the fact that we were originally decided able to dive into Super Mario Advance 2 Super Mario World, but let's face it though, bro, it's about the fact that we'll wait on that in a future time. So for now, let's dive into the next new Let's Play. So either way, greetings ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Mighty the Armadillo here. And I am Ray the Flying Squirrel here, and we are from the likes of the Maxi Toys videos.
And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our next new Let's Play, as I stated before, and this time we're going into newer Super Mario Bros. DS.
And as you can tell, this is basically like a ROM hack of new Super Mario Bros. For the Nintendo DS. And to put it simply though, is about the fact that this particular ROM hack has been first created by Newer Team, who is also responsible for not only newer Super Mario Bros. Wii, but in addition to another Super Mario 3D, thanks to Tiana did already tackle for that particular ROM hack ever since around a couple of weeks back. And on top of all that stuff, that was about the fact that there was also newer Super Mario Bros. Wii Deluxe. So as a result though, that's as far as we can able to think about this for the sake of time. So anyway.
So yeah, for this ROM hack either way, that is basically it plays out exactly like the actual new Super Mario Bros. Game on the Nintendo DS, except the noticeable difference being is that the level themes are brand new. In addition to that though, we might able to actually come across into some familiar power-ups. Well, there's only one exception to this, however though, which we'll explain more about that if we dive into this particular ROM hack right there. And obviously though, if you couldn't tell from that particular title screen alone, it looks very similar to the forms of how it does it on not only new Super Mario Bros. Wii, but in addition to new Super Mario Bros. U title screen here and there. And also, if you couldn't tell already, unlike the forms of how it does it on the normal new Super Mario Bros. Game on the Nintendo DS, is that there's no multiplayer and there's also no mini-games on there either. And it's also reassuring about this too, there's no options menu either. So instead, we're able to actually dive into the actual main game itself. And as you can tell, similar to the forms of how it does it on any other new Super Mario Bros. Games up to this point. Basically though, we got 3 file selection screens right there. So as a result, we'll dive straight into file number 1 right here. And here's how the entire structure of this Let's Play plays out. I remember back in during the forms of our Let's Plays of not only one version, but 3 versions of Super Mario Bros. 3, right? Not only for the NES, but in addition to the Super Mario All-Stars version on the Super Nintendo version, and finally, most notably, the Game Boy Advance version, is that we obviously take turns in journeying forms within some stages throughout. And same applies with the forms of Super Mario Advance 1 as well, for the sake of Super Mario Bros. 2 either way, or Super Mario USA for those if you live in Japan. So as a result though, it's about the fact that we figure about the fact that I'm going to be taking control of Luigi, and meanwhile for me, I'm going to be taking control of Mario, just like the forms of how it does it on, well, the similar structure as in, you know, Super Mario Bros. 3 for the NES, as well as Super Mario Advance 4, Super Mario Bros. 3. Well, apart from the fact that it involves within World E, for the fact that no matter what though, we did somehow switch around, you know? So anyway, the entire plot of the game remains pretty similar to the forms of how it does it on the actual new Super Mario Bros. On the DS, although the noticeable differences this time is that obviously though, like I stated before, the worlds themselves are entirely brand new, although the entire world map structure, it looks very similar to the forms of how it does on the normal version of new Super Mario Bros. On the DS. So for the time being though, I think it's your turn first, for the sake of the forms of this playthrough so far, Mighty, to go into World 1-1. So suffice to say though, is about the fact if you couldn't tell from the first world in this ROM hack, as you can tell, the time of the season was actually in autumn instead of the forms of spring. And the first world we're going to be diving into, as you can see, it's called Goldleaf Plains. So as a result, we can pretty much expect able to see some new mechanics, or specifically, just anything else potentially. So yeah, I digress. So yeah, a few things we want to talk about this is though, and that's what appears to be for the fact that, well,
Today's date, of course, is the 24th of July today, in some cases in 2025 today. And as you can definitely tell, we've only just got about 8 more days to go until we're about to be approaching into the 8th month in 2025. And suffice to say, though, is about the fact that for the second half of the year so far, it's actually gone pretty smoothly this time around, as opposed to the forms of how it does on the, you know, the first half of the year just feels a bit all over the place when it comes to our uploading schedules department. There's also reassuring about this too, is about the fact that recently, though, that the Nintendo Switch 2 version of Super Mario Party Jamboree has recently came out today, not only for the sake of the phones of the physical version, but also with the phones of the upgrade pack as well. So this means about the fact that yes, Super Mario Party Jamboree, Nintendo Switch 2 edition, plus Jamboree TV has recently came out today. So as a result, and I'm pretty sure enough though is about the fact that it was originally for the fact that I thought that Max, you were able to actually go back on experiencing, you know, Super Mario Party Jamboree. But suffice to say though, as far as what he did say, for the fact that he will be back into that at some point until next week, or is it though? Because like we've already established that in the past, that obviously though with this whole year structure as far as Let's Plays are concerned, that, you know, we are only going to be focusing on 2 games at a time instead of 3. So no matter what though, is about the fact that we were expecting, actually, to be able to actually do newer Super Mario Bros. DS for the majority of the weekend, but this might actually be the only week for the fact that we can able to actually decide to do the first 2 worlds for this week, specifically not only for today, but in addition to tomorrow as well. So we figure for the fact that no matter what though, is that by that time until this particular upcoming weekend, specifically on the 26th or 27th especially, obviously though is about the fact that we can able to expect to let Maxi were able to catch up on, you know, Super Mario Party Jamboree to do the next board, which suffice to say, the next board he's going to be going on to next, which appears to be Goomba Lagoon, which, as suffice to say though, he might be not looking forward to able to jump into that particular board as far as I'm aware, but that's just mainly because no matter what though, as you can definitely see on screen, I actually got myself the nice glorious fireworks display, which, suffice to say though, in order to able to actually trigger the fireworks is that you have to match 2-digit numbers on the timer. So, but here's the catch though, mighty, is about the fact that there are 3 toad houses you can able to actually activate depending on what specific 2 digits you're able to actually match into. Like for example, you somehow got yourselves the red toad house, which actually stands for the power-up item house, which obviously gives you a roulette block, which does manage to give you one of those power-ups you do need, likely the mushroom, the fire flower, and mini mushroom, as well as this very peculiar power-up, which we're probably not going to mention about this right now until when it gets to my turn, for the likes of World 1-2. So anyway, and it's also reassuring about this too, is about the fact that, speaking of which, in terms of the forms of Super Mario Party Jamboree, Nintendo Switch 2 edition, plus Jamboree TV, about the fact that no matter what though, is that about the fact that, gee, no wonder why, for the fact that Maxi decides able to go for the entire Let's Play of Super Mario Party Jamboree throughout the majority of the weekdays, as opposed to the forms of how it does on the weekends. So suffice to say though, and also once that particular version has now been released today, I think no matter what though, we only got about, at the moment right now, 2 games left for the actual release dates already been confirmed so far, which of course it does manage to take place in next month in August. So suffice to say though, those 2 games are Drag X Drive, alongside with the forms of Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Nintendo Switch 2 edition, plus Star Cross World. So as a result, after that though, we might have to wait for a little while until we're able to actually guarantee to get ourselves some more release dates information, not only for the likes of the forms of Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, and maybe along with all that other games as well, like, you know, Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, and you get the idea for this point. So, alright, let's see what item I can get in here. Oh, come on! I got a mini mushroom from the start. I know for a fact I keep on thinking about actually access to 2 other worlds from the original New Super Mario Bros. On the DS, so, oh well. Alright, so now you're done with that first level, twice by the way, because you did somehow screw up on that 3rd and final star coin on the first attempt. So now, it's my turn to take control of Luigi, but as you can tell, unlike the forms of how it does it on the vanilla version of New Super Mario Bros. On the DS, you're not able to actually play as not only, you're not able to actually play as Luigi in the actual vanilla version of New Super Mario Bros. DS. Basically though, you have to do a button combination while at the same time trying to select the actual file. Like for instance though, there's a code where you have to able to press 3 of those buttons combined, which appears to be L and R and A button at the same time, and that way, if you do manage to able to combine those 3 buttons together, while at the same time select the actual file, this will pretty much allow you to play as Luigi. However, in the newer Super Mario Bros. DS ROM hack, not only you can able to play as Mario, but also Luigi on the fly too, this time around. And to put it simply though, taking notice from the likes of Super Mario 3D World for the Wii U and the Switch version, basically though you can able to actually switch between those 2 characters on the fly, so yeah, no need to worry about the forms of trying to go back into the main menu or anything else like that in order to able to actually switch things around. So no matter what though, it's about the fact that we figure the fact that this is especially noticeable that about the fact that I'm going to be the host alongside with Mighty in this Let's Play. So no matter what though, it's about the fact that as far as the actual playthrough is concerned, much like the forms of the majority of those New Super Mario Bros. Games, except with the forms of our Let's Play of New Super Mario Bros. 2, because we might consider trying to doing a redo Let's Play of that game at some point, but not now though, just because at this point in time, for the fact that no matter what though, it's about the fact that you probably already do realize that the Super Mario Bros. 40th anniversary is just around the corner, and also what I keep on hearing about is about the fact that maybe there might be a possibility that we might able to actually hear about the forms of potentially a Nintendo Direct coming up by the end of the month, specifically in July. I mean, who knows, we're able to actually finally get a chance to hear not only more about Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, not only on Switch 1, but in addition to Switch 2 version as well, and on top of that with Kirby Air Riders and Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment and more surprises to come, for not only for the majority of 2025, but as well as the forms of the beginning of 2026. So, well, don't get your hopes up at this point just yet though, right? Because no matter what though, we can able to expect to realize that there might be some leaks and rumors decides able to trick on us, so as a result though, it's going to be pretty similar structure-wise as the forms of any other years in the past, like, you know, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024, because I will say this is about the fact that sometimes though, leaks and rumors can be pretty stingy sometimes, I must admit, but regardless of such though, it's about the fact that it might able to actually brings us some potential moments, so. But as you can tell, for the fact that I did manage to able to collect all 3 of these stock coins already, and that doesn't stop there, because similar to the forms of how it does it on any other new Super Mario Bros. Games up to this point, in addition to Super Mario Bros. Wonder, as usual, there's going to be some secret exits. So because of that, I'm going to go back into this particular stage again to find the secret exit. So because of that, I'm pretty sure the secret exit is not going to be that far from there though. So I suppose no matter what though, is about the fact that I'll try my best able to actually try to find it. So, because conveniently enough though, as we established that before, is that for this particular Let's Play, as far as the actual the Let's Play is concerned, I will say for this point, is that this will be a 400% completion. This means about the fact that, as you can see, the fact that, taking notice for the likes of Ben, speaking of which, in terms of not only Super Mario World, but in addition to Super Mario Advance 2, Super Mario World for the Game Boy Advance, yes, every once in a while you will able to actually try to find those familiar collectibles, which appears to be those Dragon Coins. However though, they're just filler, and as a result though, what these Dragon Coins can do is that this will pretty much guarantees you to able to actually get a 1-up. And that's about it basically if you're trying to collect all 5 of them. But ultimately though, these things are just entirely optional, because no matter what though, similar to the forms of how it does it on Super Mario World for the original Super Nintendo version, they're just there for the sake of the forms if you really want to go after one of those 1-ups potentially. Although, if we dive into Super Mario Advance 2, Super Mario World, oh my goodness, there's going to be a lot of completion requirements in terms of, you know, 100%ing that particular version of that game. So, anyways, now it's your turn, Mighty, to do the 3rd stage. So as a result, and as far as I'm aware, is about the fact that the actual background music you're going to be hearing is actually based off from
Mario Kart Wii Maple Treeway, because obviously though it's about the fact that the actual, the level does manage to take place in an autumn leaf setting, although it's almost like it's kind of like the forest environment, except the fact that the leaves themselves are colored brown, so I suppose no matter what though, to match the forms of the actual autumn aesthetic, so but either way, and there's also reassuring about this too, is about the fact that I'm pretty sure that the Fantastic Four First Steps has already came out just recently as well. Well, to be more specifically, for those of you who lived in the UK version so far, although generally speaking, that was about the fact it has been quite a few days though actually since we've last experienced the cinema, since we went to see Superman, which as a result I can still able to honestly try to recommend the film, by the way, so oh, and talking of which, when it comes to Superman, by the way, that we actually did indeed manage to able to get ourselves the updated, you know, highest grossing films of 2025 list so far.
Oh yeah, let's hear more about it, please. While you trying to go for this entire stage, by the way.
Yeah, because obviously though it's about the fact that, like what Ray has already explained about this earlier, this will be a full 100% completion. This means we need to find every single star coins, and in addition to trying to find every single secret exits, and in addition to that, very similar to the forms of how it does it on not only New Super Mario Bros. On the DS, but in addition to New Super Mario Bros. Wii, and New Super Mario Bros. 2 as well. Basically though, there are cannons that we do need to be able to hop into as well. However though, here's the catch though, Mighty, is about the fact that, remember back in during the forms of New Super Mario Bros. On the DS, right? That in order able to actually access to not only World 4, but as well as World 7 as well, basically though, is about the fact that in order able to actually access those two worlds, depending on what world you go into, well basically though, you need able to acquire, to able to use, the mini mushroom power-up in order able to actually defeat only two bosses in particular, which appears to be the Pokemami, and in addition to PD Piranha as well, while in that particular mini form state, and as a result, it allows you to able to go ahead and able to actually access to not only World 4, but in addition to World 7 as well. Well, I'm very grateful to report is that this particular ROM hack does manage to able to get rid of that particular restrictions this time, because, well, straight to the point, it is definitely possible we can able to actually go into every single world in that particular one session, which as a result, although except for the fact that in order able to actually access to World 6 on the other hand in this ROM hack, well, we'll discuss more about that, and during at some point in the later weekends to come, because generally speaking, like we established that earlier, that this will be the only week we can able to actually decide to do the first two worlds for the time being for this Let's Play, and then hopefully by that time into any forms of Saturday, all the way up to next week for some time. Hopefully though that Maxi will definitely try to catch up for more parts of, you know, Super Mario Party Jamboree, so anyways, here we go with the Bowser Jr. fight. Self-explanatory, very simple and easy fight, especially if you ever played the, you know, New Super Mario Bros. On the DS before, you'll feel right at home. Especially noticeable if you do have your Fire Flower with you, you can just simply try to end him off no problem. So with a couple of Fireball tossing, so yeah, everything else checks out there. And also, kind of think about it, several sound effects has been reused from New Super Mario Bros. On the Wii, so
oh wow, I somehow managed to activate yet another Toad House at the very beginning of the world. So yeah, that's actually quite interesting. So anyway, I might as well go back into this stage again to find the secret exit in order to able to actually access to the first cannon. So, but however though, here's the thing though, we're probably not going to get into the cannon just yet until we're able to actually access to every world in the game, or specifically, every single world in this ROM hack. So either way, and thankfully though, we don't need to necessarily try to worry about trying to get ourselves the blue shell in order to able to actually access this secret exit, because speaking of the blue shell actually, I've noticed about the fact that the blue shell in this ROM hack was absent, so because of that, instead it's been replaced by a very cool power-up, as you can definitely tell, for about a couple of levels ago. Basically though, we got ourselves the returning power-up based off from Super Mario Bros. 3, which appears to be the Hammer Suit, which as a result, except the fact that the only difference is this time is about the fact that it's almost going to be more specifically, you come across into a Hammer Flower, which obviously though if you obtain that, this allows you to able to actually turn into the Hammer Bros suit, which obviously though is actually very similar to the forms of how it does it since in Super Mario Bros. 3, which is actually pretty awesome. However though, thankfully, unlike in Super Mario Bros. 3, that particular power-up is incredibly rare back then, whilst thankfully though, the Hammer Bros suit in this ROM hack is actually more common compared to the forms of how it does it on Super Mario Bros. 3, so either way. So yeah, chances are though is about the fact that we're Miles able to see more Hammer Bros suit in action during the later stages to come, because even then though, that power-up is still looks pretty awesome, especially because not only you can able to actually just throw hammers essentially, but also you can able to destroy every enemies in your path, including boos especially. If you're following through our Let's Plays of Super Mario Bros. 3 before, not only on the NES, but in addition to the Super Nintendo version, on the Super Mario All-Stars version, and of course, most notably, Super Mario Advance 4, Super Mario Bros. 3 for the Game Boy Advance, which it still feels a bit very unbelievable for the fact that we actually did done not only one version, but 3 versions of not only Super Mario Bros. 3, but in addition to Super Mario Bros. 2, Super Mario Bros. 2, did I say that? Yeah, you did say Super Mario Bros. 2. Oh yeah, exactly. Not counting the lost levels, by the way, because obviously though, we only did done 2 versions of the lost levels, just because no matter what though, there's absolutely no way in heck for me to able to actually go for the entire game again on the Game Boy Advance screen resolution, just because it'll be so frustrating to able to actually get incels into, but either way. So as you can tell, I'm now on to the next level, which appears to be called Wiggler Woods. So as far as I'm aware, thankfully there's a checkpoint right there. So logically though, similar to the forms of how it does in one of the levels in the new Super Mario Bros. On the DS, specifically World 7-3, we can able to actually catch a ride with the giant Wiggler. So the noticeable difference this time is of course the environment you go into, such as for instance, you know, the autumn leaves. So yeah, instead of taking place in the skies above, so either way. So yeah, while on the subject for this matter though, do you want to explain about the forms of the current update on the highest grossing films of 2025 so far? Oh yeah, exactly. First place still goes to Nia Zia 2, which is nothing new. But second place, it still goes to Lilo and Stitch live action version, and as a matter of fact though, that film is currently now on to $1 billion for its box office, meaning about the fact that it's a huge success, despite the fact that we still have not seen the film, but that's mainly because I'm a little bit too skeptical about the forms of some changes here and there. And in addition to that though, Ray, is about the fact that I've heard a lot of like mixed feelings about it. Like, on the other hand, there are some changes we do appreciate, but there are a couple of changes we are not overly keen on, so yeah, anyway, continue. Third place still goes to a Minecraft movie, and in addition to that, fourth place goes to Jurassic World Rebirth, and in addition to fifth place goes to How to Train Your Dragon live action remake, and on top of that, sixth place goes to Mission Impossible The Final Reckoning, and 7th place goes to Formula 1, or F1, the movie to be exact. In addition to that, 8th place goes to Detective Chinatown 1900, 9th place goes to Captain America Brave New World, and 10th place is actually the newest one of the bunch, and that's what appears to be, well, conveniently enough, Superman. And as far as I'm aware, that film is actually doing pretty well so far, and I believe that film is currently now on to, so far anyway, $406 million for its box office, which I can totally see why. That particular film is doing pretty well for not only review scores, but in addition to the box office results so far. So yeah, that's actually pretty awesome to me, especially considering for the fact that I'm looking forward to see what's going to be happening next, in terms of the forms of some more DC movies to come, specifically for, in regards to the forms of, well, it's hard for me to explain personally, because we already know for a fact it has been quite some time since we actually last watched anything DC movie related, so either way. So now it's my turn to do the next level, as you can see, which appears to be taking place in the actual, in a mushroom platforming kind of level. So either way though, and it's also reassuring is about the fact that we have to go and used to with the false those little, mushrooms, where if you stand on these pink mushrooms, it takes you up, but if you stand on these blue mushrooms, it takes you down. So we have to be very cautious not to fall into the bottomless pit down below, So for the most part, the first part is actually pretty self-explanatory. The only time it's a little bit tricky, I must admit though, is the actual process of trying to get those star coins in particular. Although speaking of star coins though, it functions pretty similar to the forms of how it does it on not only New Super Mario Bros. On the DS, but in addition to New Super Mario Bros. 2 for the 3DS as well, is that yes, it's about the fact that there are plentiful of those star coin signs that you do need to able to spend for about 5 star coins in particular in order to able to actually access to not only secret stages, but in addition to toad houses here and there, specifically not only the red toad houses, but in addition to the 1-up mushroom toad house, and of course, most notably, the Mega Mushroom house as well. So because of that though, I'm pretty sure that you can also try to able to obtain a Mega Mushroom in the actual, the Mega Mushroom toad house at any time, so yeah, just like the forms of how it does on the, you know, New Super Mario Bros. On the DS, so you know. Alright, I'm gonna have to able to open up this path down there in order to able to actually access to World 1-A. So because of that though, this also means about the fact that yes, we're about to be going through every single stages in this ROM hack. So yeah, we're pretty much used to it by now, so either way though, and also we do need to open up every single of those paths in order to able to actually get rid of those star coin signs as well. So I think we've actually got enough to able to actually access to every single route. Well, apart from the forms of them two over there. Well, kind of think about it though. Let's open up the path to the Mega Mushroom house right there. So just to ensure for the fact that we can able to actually try to save the Mega Mushroom for later. So at least in some scenarios anyway. So either way, onwards to World 1-A, and it's your turn, Mighty, to do that particular stage. Oh shoot, I just realized I might come across into that the most annoying fish enemy earlier on in this ROM hack, which ever since in Journey Falls have been this introduction to that particular fish-like enemy since in World 2A in the original New Super Mario Bros. On the DS, so... And yeah, for the most part, the actual background music is for the most part pretty much remixed from the likes of any, you know, the original New Super Mario Bros. On DS. So as a result though, yeah, I do really enjoy this particular ROM hack so far, don't you think, Mighty? Well, yes, exactly. Especially noticeable about the fact it is nice to be able to actually explore into some new worlds that is accessible in this particular ROM hack, and in addition to the forms of, well, just that particular Hammer Bros suit is finally returned, as the forms of one of those, the most common power-up in this particular ROM hack as far as I'm aware, so, but either way, yeah, that's as far as I was expecting to be able to mention about this for the sake of time, so, in fact, let us know in the comments down below for the question of the day. Have you guys ever experienced newer Super Mario Bros. On the DS ROM hack? Which, let me know in the comments down below, because I would like to hear your thoughts, because otherwise, though, if you really want to try this ROM hack out, you can definitely recommend it easily, because not only because, you know, unique world themes, but in addition to the forms of, you know, the returning Hammer Bros suit and all that stuff. So yeah, that's actually pretty, fantastic, all things considered. But what's also reassuring about this too, is about the fact that, like we established that earlier, several sound effects has been reused from not only New Super Mario Bros. Wii, but in addition to New Super Mario Bros. 2, and heck, even with the forms of New Super Mario Bros. U as well. But, relatively speaking, that's as far as we can able to actually say about this for the most part right there. And also you do realize that you're missing that particular star coin, which means you have to go back into that entire stage all over again. So, relatively speaking, that was about the fact that there might be a couple of times where if we do ended up missing a couple of those star coins exponentially though, then we definitely need to able to actually go back onto the exact same stage again, but just with the forms of some speedrun tactics every once in a while, assuming of course, I don't know about you, but the physics might look a bit slightly different to me compared to the forms of how it does it. Well, because here's the thing though, because I'm pretty much used to with not only New Super Mario Bros. Wii's physics, but in addition to recently Super Mario Bros. Wonder physics, because obviously though in those games in particular, including New Super Mario Bros. U as well, that there was actually a very useful technique where you can able to actually just try to go ahead and trying to make your safety airborne technique. Like, basically though, if you try to shake the controller, for instance, basically though, you can able to actually do a bit of a twirl thing while you're jumping in midair, so that way you can able to actually get more distance in midair. So as a result though, that's not the case of this ROM hack, by the way, similar to the forms of not only in New Super Mario Bros. On the original, but as well as the forms of New Super Mario Bros. 2 as well, just because of the lack of motion control techniques. So I get the feeling the yellow pipe is where the third and final star coin was located, which, truth be told, I did somehow found it either way. Although, what's the most unfortunate thing about this though is about the fact that, unlike the forms of how it does it on the collection keys for Shadow Generations, basically that was about the fact you have to specifically try to able to actually complete the stage first, and as a result though, well, it's hard for me to explain, because it has been quite a while since we've last played Sonic X Shadow Generations since on the Switch 2 version, because, well, you know what I'm saying for the fact that we did manage to complete that particular version of the game as quickly as we could, just before we're able to actually dive into more gameplay time for not only for Mario Kart Worlds, but in addition to Donkey Kong Bonanza as well. So even then, and even now with the forms of trying out the forms of a brand new Jamboree TV for the likes of Super Mario Party Jamboree Nintendo Switch 2 Edition. So also, let us know in the comments down below as well, what's your first impressions about the forms of Jamboree TV mode was added onto Super Mario Party Jamboree for the Nintendo Switch 2 version, because I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below as well. So either way, now it's my turn to do the first castle level. So as a result, yes, just like the forms of how it does it on the actual vanilla version of New Super Mario Bros. On the DS, basically though is about the fact that once we make our way to the very end of the castle stage, obviously though we will come across into the actual main boss battle here and there. So, in fact, I'm pretty sure the boss battles are most likely going to be the same as the forms of the vanilla version of New Super Mario Bros. DS, basically. So we might still able to get a chance to come across into not only Bowser, but in addition to Mega Goomba, and in addition to other familiar bosses from, you know, the actual New Super Mario Bros. DS version. So, yeah, you get the idea for this point. It is also weird that we actually got ourselves a Mega Mushroom in a castle level this time, which is pretty interesting. So, alright, so let's just go ahead and continue. Ah, no! Oh, great. There goes our first death of this particular playthrough. Well, keep that in mind though, because between both Mario and Luigi, I don't suppose if you noticed, they do have different attributes. Like, for instance though, Mario is basically plays out exactly the same as the forms of how it does in the original Super Mario Bros. In addition to New Super Mario Bros. On the DS as well, that he jumps normally, and yeah, you get the idea for this point. Yes, because the reason why you did point it out is because if you do manage to play as Luigi in his ROM hack, he does have the forms of the ridiculously high jump. In addition to that though, he slits around very easily if you manage to able to go to a complete stop once you stop running. And on top of all that stuff though, he will be miraculously going to be pretty slippery to control. So as a result, that's the only thing I do need to get a little bit of accustomed to, because aside from all that stuff though, there's you know, one of those essences about the fact that yes, there might be some dual die situations sometimes, because I must admit it though right away, I do pretty much used to with like playing through Super Mario Bros. Wonder, just because of all that, not only for its badges you can able to equip, but in addition to the forms of some different aspects about it. So also I just realized that particular clock item looks a bit familiar to me, which as a result not only is from Super Mario Galaxy 2 for those speedrun challenges, but in addition to Super Mario 3D Land as well as Super Mario 3D World as well for that particular clock to obtain. So alright, the first boss is, as be expected, is Bowser, just like the forms of the vanilla version of New Super Mario Bros. On DS. However, the biggest difference is this time is that there's no platform. And on top of that, speaking of Super Mario Galaxy 2, the background music you're going to be hearing while trying to face off with these boss battles is actually based off from, well, Super Mario Galaxy 2 boss battles. So, specifically though, Digger Leg, for instance, and also other bosses I can probably think about on top of my head. Oh, Thwomp King, which I do realize, so, or Womp King, I should say. So, yeah, there you go, folks. That concludes the first world in newer Super Mario Bros. On DS. So yeah, that's actually pretty, interesting start right there, despite we did die, or I died at first on the castle level. So with that being said, folks, is that we get endings of this point right here. So join us next time for some more of Let's Play of newer Super Mario Bros. DS, is that we're going into the next world, which suffice to say this world is going to be called Crystal Sewers.
Oh, that's actually interesting. In World 2, so I'll see you guys until tomorrow.
Later, fellas.